Hey everybody, Texas Stroker here, Lance's Performance Shop, Lone Star Mopars, the cold October rain descending on the outside of the shop. That said, we're nice and tidy inside, got the battery charger going, making use of our time over here on the bench. Just took a look at this bad boy, picked it up on Amazon for under 10 bucks. There it is with the keyring installed if anyone cared to see it. We've covered it now. In the middle though, we've got the Syntek digital multimeter. This is probably the most widely owned multimeter in this country. Why? Because it's cheap and oftentimes it's free and it comes from Harbor Freight. This is not something I'm proud to own, but I must say in the time that I've had it, it has served me very well over several years. And typically all I'm doing with this is checking voltage on a battery. I'm not going to lie, I'm not going to exaggerate it. That's what purpose it served. Its primary function to me over the course of time I've had it has been to see what the battery is sitting at. So essentially, can the battery take a charge or is the battery shot? And it does it very well. And, the problem is it's gotten to a point where the battery, you can see there, is getting low. This is actually pretty good. I haven't used it in a while. And it's dead. So it's not a bad tool for basic functions, I have to say. And again, if you stock the Harbor Freight ads or you're on their mailing list, you can get that thing for free pretty much once a month. If you had to pay for it, you're going to be looking at $5, which is, you know, it is what it is. At work, where, you know, you make much more frequent use of a multimeter, we run Flukes. Fluke is a great brand. I've had zero issues with them. I've had Flukes. Currently our oldest ones are probably a couple of decades old and they're still going strong. They're a little dirty, a little beat up, but they still function. The new Flukes are going to set you back a pretty penny. They're worth it if you care about what you're doing or if you're going to use them all the time. If you're an electrician, that's the route you're going to go. If you're just a hobbyist, if you're just needing it for one particular project, that's sort of where this comes in. Something in the middle, when you're going to use it more frequently, or you're just like, hey, you know, I don't trust this to be precise or to cover what I need. Sort of a mid-range item for a lot of us is something along the lines of this. There's a lot of options now, particularly with Amazon coming into the mix. This, however, is from Klein. Klein is a very reputable company. Again, I've got so many old tools at work that are Klein's. Sort of like your lineman sets, your insulated screwdrivers. Honestly, just their screwdriver sets have held up extremely well. But this is one of their multimeters. This is the MM400. I believe it runs roughly 40 to 45 bucks, somewhere in that range. I got this from Summit. It, however, direct ships from Klein, so there's no middleman. You basically purchase it through Summit. This thing is going to leave the Klein headquarters, head your direction. It will withstand a fall. I don't think that one's going to do that. This one obviously has a little bit more bulk to it. But this is an auto-ranging digital multimeter. That's kind of going to be a step up, the auto-ranging. Again, for me personally, I'm still going to use this primarily for just basic functions here, you know, at the shop, at the house. But it's going to be nice to have a good one. I'm not going to have to replace it. And the battery on this one is normal, which is fantastic. So included accessories, you get test leads, thermocouple with adapter, and batteries, which I believe are AA. Coming around to the back side, this kind of gives you an overview of what it can handle. AC, DC voltage, current, resistance. That's going to be good if you're testing gauges, wiring, capacitors, things along those lines, right? You're sort of stepping it up. This can do that, but it's not gonna be, you know, as accurate, shall we say. We can do millivolts, we can do milliamps, microamps. It's got the backlight, temperature, it's auto ranging, it's got a range hold, a data hold, a diode test, which again is actually kind of convenient for these old cars, particularly when you're about to rewire one like we're going to do. We've got capacitance, frequency, duty cycle, a min-max value, which will be nice, LCD display. Let's see, it's 1 meter, which, hey, I use the, I don't use metric, but whatever. And it's going to be a little bit more durable. So this looks like it will be a complete pain to open, so we're going to have to slice into it before we take a look. But I will say, you shell out 40, 50 bucks for something like this, it makes sense to go ahead and pick up a case. Now, I think all of the Flukes I've purchased at work, which I've only bought one, the others have been there since the 70s or 80s. You're gonna spend quite a bit more. They're probably a couple $100. They typically come with a case, but if I pull my phone back up here, where is it? Yes, yes, yes. It is Klein, part number 69401. You're looking at about $6.61 for this. Again, right there, the part number 69401. I picked this up from Summit as well. It is also direct shipped. Klein, they're not a stupid company, so you'll get them in the same box. I think, depending on what multimeter you get, you'd want to check the fitments. But for the one we've got here, the MM400, we're going to be just fine. We'll go ahead and take a look at this because it's just so much easier to get into. I will say everything that came from Klein had like this weird packing dust on it, which is not necessarily a bad thing, it's just more annoying. It came here in good shape, that's the important part. But another perk to Klein, the charger, Hemi orange, black vinyl top, black interior. What color scheme do we have here? Orange and black. Minor thing, it's just aesthetic, but hey, if you're somebody that cares about that, go that route. If you got a B5 car, you can find multimeters sort of color coordinated. You really should focus more on the quality and the actual function of the product, but hey, something I'm surprised about here, especially for the price point of $6. Not only do we have a pocket for batteries or for the test clips, probably that's what they intended. We'll probably store some spare batteries. It's fully padded. This is not just like a cheap sort of, you know, whatever that material would be, denim polyester combination. It actually does have a little foam inside. This is a very soft surface. I'm not sure that the camera will convey that, but it is padded. That's going to add a little bit more protection to the multimeter itself. So what I'm going to do is we're going to cut this. I don't want to show you the tedious, ridiculous process of tearing into plastic designed in this manner. Again, this is primarily theft prevention, which is unfortunate, but one final look at the packaged result here. We're going to cut into it, check it out in person, see what we think. All right, we're back and it is beautiful. I love the feel of this in my hand. I can't really explain it to you through a camera, but I can tell you if you held this, you would know exactly what I'm talking about. Where the good old Syntek here, which again, it has served me well, is just a smooth plastic. The only rough spots you have are sort of here on the side where you would be like, hey, I can hold that kind of. You get the idea. It's slippery, it's loose, it's not quite up to the level of this Klein multimeter. This, in addition to looking fantastic and also fitting my color scheme with the charger, the big thing with the orange that is an advantage I should mention, if you drop this, if you're out in the field, which granted I know a lot of times if you're, you know, messing with your cars in the shop, it's not going to leave the shop. Let's say you take this out to a buddy's house, you're out in the country, a hunting trip, whatever it might be. If you take this thing and you drop it, if this was a black frame, it's going to be harder to find. The orange is vibrant, it sticks out, same concept with hunting. In theory, if you break down on the side of the road, maybe you're doing power tour, maybe you've got a cruise, maybe you're coming back on a late night deal, this will be that much easier to find. So it might save you 40 bucks in the long run. Even for people that hate orange or don't like the bright orange, can't deny that is a benefit. So coming around here, the first thing we've got to do is put in the batteries. I misspoke. These are actually AAA, which is fine by me. It just means it'll be a lighter weight. You will need a #1 Phillips. You don't technically have to use the #1 Phillips, but let's be honest, that is going to be the best way to make this happen for you. Man, just when you need fingernails, you know. But I can't tell you how well I do like this and the way it feels. So this is loose. It's just, man, I don't have the fingernails to make it come down. Finally, once again, the screw, it didn't take long to come out. It's just, man, this is actually nutty. So the batteries are going to go here. Let's see if we can break this open. Simple enough. I've done that many times. Honestly, these off-brand batteries that are often included with the electronics have a ridiculously long lifespan that make Duracell, Energizer, so on and so forth look really bad. I don't know why, but that's how it typically goes. Not always a craze. These are GP extra heavy duty. So we'll go ahead and we will slide that in so, and then on this side we want to do this. Now, while this is open, I want to point out, included tucked away inside that was the pretty comprehensive, I would say, instruction manual here. What I want to cover, this is showing you how to do the battery replacement, which I've just shown you, nothing to it, but if you blow a fuse, this is a big deal. You're going to need to pull these other 4 screws from the basically the back of the battery jack. You're going to have a fuse right here and right here. This is what we are going to need to replace them with should we have any issues. You can probably run to an electrical shop and get those. If you do have to order them, those are the Klein numbers 69033 and 69032. So they will probably need to be fast blow so you don't damage this. You want the fuse to go, not your meter, is sort of the logic there. So now I guess what I will do is button this thing up and we will take a look at it. Alright, so the meter is buttoned up. It's technically ready to go, but I do want to take the time inside the cover of this. Klein actually suggests that we pick up 69401, which is the case that we just showcased prior to opening this. Fits like a glove in there. I tested it. We'll try to showcase that at the end. If you're interested, 69417, it is a magnetic hanger that'll give you hands-free usage. So that's something, again, if you're kind of, I guess it could come in handy with a car, but it's going to be limited usage compared to, say, automotive use. So the first thing I want to do, I'm oddly excited about this. If you're like, what in the world is that piece of garbage? You know, it's like a weird, what is that, a mouse cable and the connection and all this weirdness. This thing reads temperature. So that sounds incredibly dumb. You're like, why would I ever need to do that if I'm just focusing on a car, right? Because that's mainly what we cover here is automotive stuff. Let me tell you, you know what this is? This, my friends, is a candy thermometer. This thing is freakishly accurate, and the reason I have this is if you ever have cooling issues, which if you build a high horse, high torque motor, anything performance related, you most likely will, right? Even if you're just in the warmer climates, maybe even a summer in the Northeast might do it to you. Anywhere in the South, you're probably going to at some point with your old car have cooling issues. And as you try to track things down, is it a fan, is it the water pump, is it the radiator, what can I do to resolve this? Is it just the gauge that's wrong, which I have had that be the case before? This comes in very handy. I have oven thermometers that I picked up to troubleshoot stuff. I'm like talking, you know, clamp them down to the water pump, try to see if, you know, we're getting an accurate reading from the probe and the sending unit. This comes in super handy. You can stick this in the radiator, you can probe anything with it, and again, if your wife is into cooking, you may have one of these that you could borrow if she's ever out of town. So wife or girlfriend or whatever may be the case. Note it's got the little clamp, and I do have to say this is super accurate. Pyrex is a fantastic, well-known brand, typically measuring cups. They also do this type of a thing. Good old Syntek right here. What is this, you say? Well, this was another step, sort of a more convenient way for me to do this. So I put the dot right there on the Omega M, and it's going to tell me we're sitting at 70.9 degrees. Now, how does this tie in? Well, it's got these little caps here that we want to get off. So we pull out these 2 caps. You can see the connectors there. This is going to plug in here. We're not going to go to 10 amp. You're rarely going to use that for automotive purposes. Probably never, actually. But we place this in, and this is not, you know, going to be most people's deal, but I'm dorkishly excited. So we are off. We want to come over here to Fahrenheit, right? That's what we care about. So, ooh, it's on, baby. Alright, so 83.1 seems to be the ambient air temperature. This is our probe end right here. So I'm going to come in and put it on the Omega M. Oh, that is so freaking cool. So it's bottoming out 74.3. That's our steady reading. So 74.3 is what we're going to roll with. Now we're going to grab the Syntek. Probably not super accurate, but close enough for like, hey, what's wrong with my car? 70. Alright, I tend to say that the Klein is probably going to be more accurate. And again, it's just a small variance there, plus 5 degrees, but hey, close enough, and it's something you can do. So if I were to come in and put this on my hand, we're rapidly going up, right? If I come in and what is the candy thermometer? You can't really see it, but since it's metallic, it's kind of got the different temperature. That is cool. Again, picture yourself like, hey, what's my water pump at? Doesn't matter if it's cast iron, aluminum, whatever. Throw this up against it, you can read the temperature. Is it the most important feature on a multimeter? No. Is it cool? Yes. Can you use it? Yes. Is it something to impress your friends with? I would say so. So what we want to do now is just turn it back off. The LCD screen looked great in my personal opinion. Very solid connections here, far different than the Syntek, so that's probably to be expected. We'll put these caps here. You do probably want to put those back on or keep that in a toolbox, just because dust is kind of your enemy with electronics, so anything you can do to mitigate it will be good. I thought this was a rubber band. I stand corrected. It's just a red tie, which was very easy to work with. These are test leads. Oh, and they're singular too. That's so cool. A lot of times companies come in and they like have the wires paired together like speaker wire, and then you have to separate them. It's not a huge deal, but over time it's like, this is like the flukes at work, really, man. This is good. Let me show you the difference between this. Okay, this is the Syntek that you can get for free. This is the Klein. Note the difference in the wire diameter. Note the difference in the probe. Note the fact that this is exposed all the way to the tip, and then this one is insulated to the tip. When you go from a $10 multimeter to a $40 multimeter, these are the things that you will notice and appreciate. So we want to pull this cap. We want to pull this cap. Like I said, virtually everything you will do with your vehicle, you're not going to need that jack. You're going to use black right here. Black will actually always be here. But if you're doing batteries, voltage, on a 12 volt, 6 volt system, we're not going to need to be over here. So let's go ahead and plug this in. Of course, you want to make sure it's fully seated, which is pretty much flush up against the meter. And then we're going to come in. Oh yeah, there's our voltage setting. I can go check the battery in the duster. I would right now, but that would kind of be a pain. But we just come in, touch the leads, we're good to go. This feels so good in hand. I can't say enough nice things about it. But again, we can get the ohms, we can get resistance, we can check fuses. This will be well worth the $40 that we spent when we rewire the charger. If we were just doing the battery stuff, this would be well worth it when that basically has to be thrown away or picked up a new one. And in this case, we can replace 2 AAA batteries. So something I do want to do is check out the backlight. I don't know what color it is, how well it is. This display, even when that was new, it wasn't great. But this one is super crisp. So the backlight, oh, that's nice. It's a white light. Yeah, look at that. It could be pitch black in here and we could see that beautifully. The backlight on the Syntek, not so much. I'm very happy with this purchase. It's going to serve me well. The other big advantage here, you'll note over the years I've had this, since it's primarily just been, fuse block stuff and batteries for the most part, I just kind of kept the leads cable tied like it was delivered out of the packaging. The reason for that, there's really nowhere to put them, right? So with the Klein, and this is what you'll have on pretty much any higher end multimeter, probably even in the $20 to $30 range, we have clips right here. And so you can come in and you'll note they fit beautifully like so. You can wrap the cables however you're inclined. That's going to keep your leads safe. It's going to keep them clean. We can then of course just kind of bundle this up and we can put it, let's see if this actually fits with the leads oriented like that in the case. I had a feeling it would, but I hadn't tested it, and it looks like it does. So I have to say, collectively together for the meter itself and this case, I'm in under 50 bucks. I got something that's going to last me for the rest of my life. All I'll have to do maintenance wise is replace a few AAA batteries. If I do something stupid, we're looking at, what, $2 to $5 fuses if we're getting ripped off. Beautiful case. It's got a nice carry. You can put this in a toolbox. It's going to insulate it, protect it. The meter itself is pretty solid in your hand. It's drop resistant up to a meter. It's got the good textured zipper, which is cool. And is it an upgrade over the Syntek? Yes. Do most of you have the Syntek or something similar? Yes. There's nothing wrong with this for basic functioning. I'm not knocking it. That's why I have it. That's why I brought it out. If you're just going to check batteries like I do, if you're just going to use it a couple times a year, this is fine, especially if you get it for free. You cannot knock that. If you want something a little bit more accurate, if you want something more capable, the auto ranging will be fantastic, particularly when I get the fuel injection installed. We can sort of come in and pick up on the sensors and the readings a little bit better. This is a very wise investment. At $40 so for the meter, I'm fine with it. Klein, I've had great luck with at work. Once again, the meters at work that I've used my whole life have always been a Fluke. Fluke is great, but Fluke costs a whole lot of money. And honestly, I kind of think their stuff is a little overkill for what I'm doing here in the shop. You know, when I'm working on the cars, I don't necessarily need what my Flukes are capable of. If you do a ton of stereos, if you do a ton of rewiring, by all means, go that route. Klein does have, of course, higher end multimeters, but I feel for virtually everything I would ever want to do in this shop, I can get it done with this multimeter. And saving a couple $100, I'm fine with. This right here, again, some people could care less. The fact that your multimeter can do it, that eliminates the candy thermometer, which I honestly think is probably the most accurate for cooling system issues. As weird as it may seem, just roll with me here. When I was like 14, 15, 16, having these troubles, how do you learn this crap? How do you go and like, hey, I'm going to Bed Bath & Beyond to buy crap for my car? How do you come up with such a stupid idea? You talk to really old people, the hot rodders from back in the heyday. You learn their tips and tricks before they pass away. There's a whole slew of information that's forever been lost, and I'm somebody, I'm not afraid to ask questions. I appreciate the insights and the help, and when they say something stupid like that, I'm like, hey, that's a pretty good idea. And so again, most of you have probably never heard of this candy thermometer. You might not even know it exists. You probably never thought of a candy thermometer being useful for your car's cooling system. This came from old timers. I asked, I listened, I learned, I picked it up, I confirmed what they learned in the 1950s. Okay. So seems weird, but just roll with me. That said, if you want to avoid borrowing that from your wife or girlfriend, which is highly advisable if you want to keep them around, you can run up Bed Bath & Beyond, a kitchen store, wherever. I don't know if Walmarts and Targets have them. They might. It's not really something I look for. I picked that up at Bed Bath & Beyond, so I know they have it. That was several years ago, and it served me well the few times I've had to use it. But this is just a little bit cooler of a way to accomplish what that did. If all the old timers I talked to had a multimeter that, like this, that could read temperatures, they would be like, what in the world are you doing with that, idiot, you pansy? Go put that back in the kitchen. But hey, it is what it is. I'm super stoked with this. For $50, getting a case and the multimeter, I have zero complaints. Being able to read temperatures with it, not up everyone's alley, but it's super cool, and it's something that I will actually use. Case in point, when we wire things up with the fuel injection, it's going to give us readings, sort of CAN bus style. I want to come in and check, hey, what is the temperature at the sending unit? I can probe that bad boy down there, compare and contrast. If Holly's telling me we're sitting at 186, if this is telling me we're sitting at 186, I feel good about it. If Holly tells me my cooling system is 225, the gauge in the car from the mechanical sender says we're 190, I'm going to have issues. I'm going to come in and I'm going to check it with the multimeter. If the multimeter tells me 192, I'm going to say Holly has issues. If the Klein multimeter tells me 223, I'm going to say, hey, I think the sending unit is crapped out on my old mechanical gauge. And if I get a discrepancy between that, you know exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to grab this trick from the old school people, and I'm going to throw a candy thermometer on it and run with what it tells me. But hey, Summit Racing's where I picked it up. It all direct ships from Klein. Again, aside from like this funky packing debris, which is a very minor thing, everything was beautiful. It came in safe and sound. Pretty quick transit times, I would say. I believe they ship out of Illinois, if I'm not mistaken. But I have zero complaints. It fits in this case beautifully. The case is a steal at $6. I figured they'd want like $19.99 for this. $6, pick it up. It will serve you very well for many, many years. Plus, it looks awesome. But hey, the Syntek will stay until it's totally dead, but I have found its replacement a much more competent and capable replacement, probably with way better accuracy. But again, nothing wrong with this. It's just if you're moving on, if you're trying to get something that has more features, This is a very nice bargain buy in my opinion, and it's going to be something super quality, super well built, crafted, trusted. It'll be good for years to come. So hopefully you learned a little something. Hopefully this helped you out. If you've got anything you would like to add, feel free to do so. I know when you get into things like this, you've got a lot of brand loyalists. That's why I try to reference this stuff. I don't think anyone's going to come and say, you know, Syntek is the way to go, but people will say, hey man, that thing's free and it's not bad. I totally agree with that. Some of you are going to say, oh, Klein, you should have bought a Fluke. I have wonderful things to say about Fluke. They just cost a whole lot more. And like I said, here in the shop, for what I'm doing with the cars, something like this will get me by. Some of you are going to come in and say, hey, you did the right thing, Klein's the way to go. Can't argue with that. All three have their places, all three have their purposes. How would this hold up at work like the Flukes? Probably similarly well, but again, what's working is working, and I don't need to change it out, so I'm going to stick with the Flukes at the shop. And here at this shop, we're going to run with Klein. So, hey, I had a good time. I hope you did too. LoneStarMopars.com is a website. Check out the forum. I post up all these videos there if you'd like to go in with a more detailed explanation or synopsis of why you should never purchase this and you should get a Fluke. Feel free to do so. It will be much easier for you to post on the forum. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Google+. Make sure you are subscribed. That'll hopefully keep you up to date with the new videos. If not, you have to like click the bell and then say what notification. They've changed a lot here on YouTube. It's kind of ridiculous. So if you're like, hey, you know, where are all these videos coming from? I never knew about them. Check the channel. Just go there periodically, once a week or something, keep you up to date. But hey, that said, hope this helps you out a little bit. I have nothing negative to say from my initial impressions. I'm going to throw it on a battery, compare it to the Syntek, and I'm going to have a lot of fun with this thing. So that said, thanks so much for watching. I'll catch you guys back here as we continue to check out some tools at the bench and hopefully get to work on some projects with the cars.